All right. Thank you, everyone. Going to give everyone another minute or so to hop in here, starting right at the top of the hour, which is timely. We've got a lot going on, and we've got a lot to discuss today. All right. Thank you all. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. Thank you again for joining us for this really exciting discussion. My name is Mel Coleman, the Director of Strategy and Media here at Pannos, and I am joined today by Abby Fitzgerald, Senior SEO Strategist at Pannos as well. Really quick, Pannos Marketing is a full-service marketing agency focused exclusively on community financial institutions nationwide and has been happily working in this industry for nearly 30 years. We know that this can be an incredibly scary and overwhelming topic, and we've ourselves also gone to a lot of sessions about this to see how the rest of the industry is talking about it, and there can be a lot of fear mongering. We want you to know that this is not scary, or at least it doesn't have to be. I think that that's a really big thing here, is this does not have to be a scary topic at all. Ultimately, AI is a tool. That's all it is. Just like a miter saw or a mandolin knife, it is a tool that can be dangerous or it can be helpful depending upon how you use it. And so really, we're going to talk about how to make AI part of your toolkit that all of us marketers need, because we always have increasing demands with less budget. And also a quick note, I promise we did not actually coordinate this with FEMA, but at 2:20 today, there is going to be a FEMA test. That test is going to go out to all cell phones and TVs. So happening at exactly 2:20. So our phones are off, our TVs are off, but in the event that you hear any screeching happening at 2:20, know that everything is fine. FEMA is just testing in a national emergency system, and is just proving, again, that AI and technology is really a tool to be used to help better communicate. So to break down things such as AI and SEO, really, we're going to start with some definitions, which is the easiest way to really break it down. And as a reminder, I did just see a question come in chat. We will answer these as we go, but also we may hold some for the end, but the recording will be emailed out and available in the next week or so. So getting into some really fun definitions. So really what I'm going to do is kind of broad strokes give you the overall understanding, because AI is one of the terms, but it's not the only technology used that falls under an AI umbrella. And then Abby is going to dive into how is it used today without you even realizing that that's what's going on, and how can you then continue to use it yourselves. We're also going to leave with some action items. What can you yourself actually do today if you're feeling ambitious, or tomorrow, or next week, or in Q4? What can you do to try to start using this? So buckle up, there will not be a quiz, there will not be a test. Ultimately, AI, apart from what Hollywood has shown us or spoken to us about, it's the theory and development of computer systems to enable computers to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. That's a lot. Ultimately, it's technology that tries to mimic human behavior. And that's around visual perception, it's around speech recognition and translating, decision-making, and really just kind of the base level things. It is not perfect. It never is, of course not. Humans aren't perfect. Humans created technology, so of course that's not perfect either. But the way that we like to view it and the way that it should be used is really to help take some of the things off your plate. Some things that you don't have to be doing, such as translating or transcribing this webinar. There is a tool for that. So it's not the only thing though. AI, that term, artificial intelligence, is typically viewed as the grandfather. It is like the grandfather of all of the other algorithms that have fallen within it and that have developed as a result of it. Some of those are, again, we love our acronyms in marketing, and so here are some more. But there are LLMs, which are large language models. Ultimately, it's a deep learning technique or technology to understand and generate content. This is not necessarily the same as ChatGPT, which is more comes from generative AI. So ChatGPT and similar sorts of things, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. I think we all see why they shorten that to GPT, but ultimately it creates text based off of content put into it. So it's looking for things for you and then combining and synthesizing that based upon pre-existing data. That is to say, there is no original thought happening there. It is already creating it from other things. So like with data, like if you're looking at your MCIF, if you're looking at your CRM, if you want to evaluate even your website traffic within Google Analytics, garbage in, garbage out. ChatGPT, AI writers, even data analysis tools are only as good as what you put into them. Again, you as a human must have a critical role in that process. So within LLMs, there is that generative AI, which is built on a neural network. Don't ask me to explain that. I can't explain that. It's kind of like explaining what's beyond our universe. There's also natural language processors, which is truly enables computers to help understand human language. Because if you think about just the US alone, the US, or even if, as we start to talk about other countries that also speak English, we're all speaking the same language, but we don't sound the same. We don't use words the same. Same can be said for literally every language. It depends upon where you live and how you engage with people and what your lives are like, what are your communities like that help to define them. So computers try, but again, they're not perfect. Just like if you've ever put anything into Google Translate, you better know the language too, because you can end up saying some really funny, awful things. And so again, really, it comes down to nuance, but that comes down to you as a human understanding that nuance where a computer cannot. And finally, there's machine learning. So machine learning is the ability for a computer or an algorithm to learn from itself. So that is to say that it's going to write and adapt based upon structures and instructions that were given, and then it can fix and alter that code as it continues to go. And that's more around statistical models and data analyzation. Analyzation is a word now. But it's looking for patterns in data. And really that's another critical component because that's some of the ways that we can still use, and that's actively part of our toolkit today without us realizing that that's what's going on. No, there are no slides also today. Just so you know, there's a lot going on here. And so there are no slides happening because really what we want to talk about is have more of a conversation. And I don't want to feel like I'm selling to you. We're not selling anything other than sharing our knowledge. So the final definition before I'm going to turn it over to Abby is SEO. This is something that we surprisingly still get a lot of questions on at the agency, where we do full media. So that's every push of a brand to market, whether it be paid or organic. But SEO today is search engine optimization. It's the ability for a website or optimizing a website to meet users' needs, which is then measured and gauged based upon search engines. And ultimately your ranking factor, which is a whole other conversation, but your ranking factor comes down to how well do you meet users' needs? And that's for the external audience, not the internal audience. And a lot of that, what the Google algorithm has tried to really instill in all of us is that it's got to be fast, it's got to be relevant, and it's got to be original. It's got to be worthwhile. There has to be something there, but you've got to be answering questions. And really, it's got to be focused on that external audience. That was a lot, everyone. Take a breath with me. We've got 10 minutes until that FEMA alert. But now that we know kind of some of the definitions behind AI and SEO, you may be wondering how AI functions in the search space today. And I say today because it changed from last year and it changes month to month, and it'll change next year too. So Abby, what do we got?
I mean, you just went over
very, very big topics, and we fully understand and comprehend that these are hefty topics to take in that quick, kind of a rapid fire quiz we just had. But something that I do want to go back on before we dive into all of the impacts of SEO in the search space, SEO AI in the search space, I do just want to go back really quick to talk about generative AI. Because we hear it left and right. There are so many conversations regarding these transformer chats, AI, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and we're going to get into all of those. But I truly want to stress the fact that these transformers, these generative responses, are built from the internet. Like Mel said, it is solely built on the internet. So garbage in, garbage out, meaning we know that the internet is not 100% accurate. There are things on Wikipedia that are not true, but that is what the generative AI is built on. So it is only as good as the sources it's given. And the reason that I want to bring this up is we hear every day that AI is robots, they're taking over, they have full control of everything. They're not. That's not how that works. That's not how that's happening. It truly is only predicting what it thinks you might want to know based off of the sources and based off of the information it already understands. So these robots on the back end, they're not answering your question based off of what they feel. They don't have feelings. It's not a person. It is just transcribing and generating a response based off of what it has already learned. So everything that it is sharing with you is already learned knowledge. Again, whether that knowledge is accurate, that's when it comes into the heartbeat editor. We're going to get into all of the good stuff that you need to know to best use these tools. But we really wanted to just drive home, make sure that everybody is aware that these are not robots taking over our lives. They're not pushing you out of the way. This is a tool, and every tool has its perks and every tool has its setbacks. And we just really want to make sure that everybody is kind of aware of how that process works. Because I think that's sometimes forgotten when AI is brought into the conversation. People just assume the worst, but really it just is a new way to show data. Long tangent there, but now to really get into, you understand now what AI is. Obviously, SEO is critical. You want to be shown in that search space. But over the past, even in the past 6 months, but we'll say probably past 3 years, there have been so many changes to the search space itself. And now with this introduction of AI, it's a whole new search space. That doesn't mean search is going away. That just means things are changing. And change can be scary, change is frightening, but it also is a huge opportunity to advance yourself and make yourself stand out as your business. So how does AI and SEO, AI and search, how does all of that work together? In a moment here, I'm going to kind of walk through a couple of the most notable connections of AI and SEO. But first, I just want to take a step back. What does this even mean? From a marketing day-to-day perspective, what is the correlation between AI and search marketing? You can do so many things with AI, such as keyword research or data analysis, content optimization, content creation. There are so many different ways that you can use these programs that are more than just the tools we're going to talk about. They are a way that you can communicate with someone who already has the full background knowledge of what could mean success. It's just a further conversation and a further way to have this breakdown of data and analysis that maybe bandwidth-wise you can't do on your own right now. One of the most notable, newest AI integrations that we want to talk about that is taking the world by storm, truly, is Google's Search Generative Experience. Another acronym, I do apologize. We're going to have like 17 more acronyms here. So SGE, Search Generative Experience, is based off of a generative AI. Again, it is basing its answers off prediction text. So when you are putting in your prompt, whatever your question may be, Google or whatever program you're using is breaking down each and every one of the words you're using to understand the nuance and the natural language behind what you're asking to give you the most accurately predicted answer. So search generative experience, this is, from our perspective,
So cool. Mel and I get very excited about this. So basically what this is, it's a new beta testing feature that Google has. Technically, they say they're going to end beta testing at the end of the year, but we all know Google. Google does their own things. They beat to their own drum. But basically what this feature is inside the search engine result page, a user will go on, type in their normal query into Google, but instead of having the normal search engine result page, whether it's a map pack or a featured snippet or just organic results or paid results, there's now a new section in that search engine result page called the generative search experience, and it populates a response similar to a response you would get with a ChatGPT, but it's also including sources. It's including an accurate breakdown, well, accurate. We're going to use accurate in very loose terms here, but it's able to produce answers and predict what you're most likely looking for that may not 100% show up in a search result. So that changes the space entirely. If a user can go on and type in, what is a checking account rate? What does that mean? And AI is able to answer that question. The whole entire purpose of everything that we do from a SEO search perspective is helping the user. That is the most important part. And that's most important across the board, is not where you're ranking, but is your content valuable to help the user move forward? So that's why we're seeing these changes in the search space, because as the technology changes, the way users search is going to change. Does that mean that there's going to be changes in the way that we have to kind of lay out content? Possibly, but your content should always be created with your user in mind, not with ranking in mind. So these changes should not be so crazy and impactful. Truly, it's just a new feature that if you guys don't have the chance or you don't have it yet, highly recommend signing up for, I think it's called Google Search Labs or Google Labs. And that's where you can go to sign up for the search generative experience. Just try it out. It genuinely is so cool. They have fun colors. It doesn't take much to impress me, but it really is. It's such a cool feature.
Really quick, we did just have a quick kind of back and forth in chat. Somebody had gone to one of our other webinars and said that they have tried it and they found it a bit annoying. And I will absolutely say that there is a learning curve. Whenever search changes, my old millennial self gets mad because I liked how it was. But I have found, oh, and there is that test already starting to go off.
That's the alarms going off.
But I've found that it's something that is really helpful, like you said, to get sources. Sometimes, especially when I have kind of a nebulous question where I'm not even really sure what I'm researching or how to start, that'll give me a good source to be able to continue or start that journey. And then in other instances where I just want a quick answer, I just need a quick answer to be able to explain a complex topic, sometimes that's where SGE is super helpful. Now, if I'm looking for just where can I get my caffeine fix now, no, get out of my. But again, it's understanding what the tools are and how to use them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for chiming in on that. I didn't even see those chats come through. And this kind of goes apart on the line of the search generative experience. So when you're in Google, you type in that search. Bing also has their own version, but I think it's like 92% of the United States uses Google. So we just say Google just to make things easier. But any search engine, everybody's really starting to integrate these chat features. And a part of the search generative experience is, great, you type in your query, you get your answers, you get some sources to continue your journey. But then there's a feature to keep talking and to keep chatting. And that is called the chat experience result page. I want to say, I think Search Engine Land is now calling this the chirp instead of the SERP. Again, we love acronyms. That's just a fun way to say that. But it's a way to continue that user's experience from the search engine result page entity. Now, there are some downfalls to both of these. Like Mel said, sometimes it's kind of a pain. You don't want to see this huge list of results when you're just trying to find very quick information. Another downfall is in regards to tracking. Google has not been very forthcoming, what's new, in regards to their information regarding if you show up in these generative sections or in the chat sections, is that going to go into your search console? Does that count as an impression? Does that interaction count as a click? And also the way that the page is structured now. your first organic listing, that could be halfway down the page. That could be 3 scrolls on mobile. So it's understanding that, yes, things are different, changes are coming, but well, changes are already happening, but it's how we respond to it that is going to be the most critical. Because there are really great features that come from this, but it's just going to be a little bit of a trial and error testing situation to understand what the analytics and data are associated with it. This is where things get a little wild. From my perspective, one of my absolute favorite connections between SEO and AI is specifically using ChatGPT, but there are so many other programs and features that you can use, but specifically for writing code and reading code. As Mel mentioned previously, AI, artificial intelligence, however you want to bucket this giant group of machine learning, like Mel said, it's a natural language processor. So for the human language, there's so many nuances. There's so many slight adjustments in tone, which could totally change the meaning of a sentence. But from a code perspective, that's zeros and ones. That's very strict. There are rules you have to follow, and it's never going to change. You can have brand new code that no one's ever seen before, but the actual structure behind it is not changing. So the reason that this is so cool is I don't have a huge coding background. Mel and I have enough knowledge to be dangerous when it comes to code, but we're not web programmers. Most people aren't when they're in the marketing world. So using these tools to help you write code, analyze code, and understand what certain codes mean is incredible. For example, schema. Schema is so important to have on your site. It highly impacts structured snippets on the search space. How are you supposed to know how to write schema? You don't have to. You can just go straight into ChatGPT and say, how do I format when my financial institution was founded, where it's headquartered, and my main branch location. You throw that into ChatGPT and ask it to output it in schema format. Bada bing, bada boom. We sent that over. We did it recently, and it worked perfectly. So it's just an example of you don't have to have every single ounce of knowledge in regards to everything that has to do with marketing. We know that it is such a vast section of paid to organic to the website to the analytics, but this is a way that you can kind of group all of it together and have somebody else be the expert, and that somebody else just happens to possibly be a robot. I use the term robot loosely. But writing code with AI is absolutely incredible. And you're probably not going to use that feature every single day, but when you do, it is going to shave off so much of your time. It's absolutely incredible. Let's see if I had anything else very critical to kind of add in there. And again, because it's a natural language, it's so easy for these different generative AI programs to give you accurate feedback because it's not based off of opinions. It's not taking their own opinions and trying to morph it into a response. It's solely ones and zeros. That's what you get, and that's what it's going to give back, and that's not going to change. There are also a ton of SEO plugins for GPT. There's some, I'm pretty sure, in WordPress. There's a ton of different AI-related SEO plugins. And they can help you create indexing for keywords, making sure that your content on your page is following the kind of notable Flesch-Kincaid reading ease scores. For example, in the United States, I'm pretty sure the average reading level is between 5th grade and 7th grade. That's relatively low in regards to what we talk about on a daily basis. Trying to explain to, for example, a 5th grader what a HELOC is, that's not fun. That's not an experience that you want to do. So
you can explain that to millennials today and be like, all right, explain home equity. People will hazard a guess, but understanding where the line of credit comes in, no.
So it's being able to take these kinds of questions that we know for a fact are hard to get across and they're hard to explain. Use ChatGPT and say, help me explain this at a little bit of a lower reading level, or help me make this a little bit more usable across all generations. You can also go in to see where would be a valuable call to action. What would be the most valuable call to action? Or maybe your page on the back end from a technical perspective doesn't have metadata, or the alt tags aren't working. Use ChatGPT. Use all these different generative AI programs that can help you formulate and give you a place to start. That really is the most difficult part, is knowing where to start with some of these things, but truly you just have to dive in. The last two kind of most notable AI integrations that I want to talk about today is in the paid space. So AI has been integrated inside ads, whether it's Google Ads, Microsoft Ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the different ad platforms. They all use AI, and they've all used AI for a very long time. It's just really kind of become a bigger conversation. So some of these different features that are inside our ads, it's content creation. It's helping you think of different headlines based off of your landing page. It can help you segment certain customers that are entering your site, or target certain people, or help adjust bids in a more real-time manner. It's taking some of that load off of your shoulders. Obviously, you're still there. You're still the one going in there and analyzing and making sure that things are working correctly, but you don't have to be in it every single second of every single day. There's also, it's so much more efficient. Truly, like, that is kind of the biggest takeaway, is using these tools adds so much additional time to do the trillion other things that everybody else in marketing has going on and in the financial institution. You can also use this information to predict. It's a predictive tool. It takes in information, it digests it, and it understands how users are going to interact. That is all inside ads. They are all predicting and analyzing, how are users reacting to this ad? Where can we push it to be a better audience, a more interactive audience? And even in, I know we have, Mel and I have many opinions, but it's dangerous. But in regards to GA4, GA4 is solely AI integrated. The whole insight section, that is solely based off of the information that's coming in, what you're doing, and it's digesting that information to show you the most valuable data for you.
Can I go off on that for a second?
Yeah, please.
Because we've heard every day from clients that we work with and for ourselves. When we first launched GA4 for ourselves for Pannos 3 years ago now, I remember looking at it and being just like, where do I begin? Like, I've been somebody who's been in analytics for well over a decade, and I was looking at it, I'm like, where do I start? And Insights was like, hey, it looks like page views are down on this week over week for the past month. And I'm like, oh, like there's actual, because, you know, whenever we're looking at data, you have to have a question in mind. You can't just be like, I'm going to go into analytics today and see what I can learn. See what you can learn about what. You have to know what you want to do and what questions you want to answer prior to going in there. And Insights, on those days where you're like, I need to know if it's performing or not, Insights will help you to understand if you're trending correctly and if the content that you have is performing correctly, and opportunities for you to look at different things. So that's been part of it, and that was part of Universal Analytics, but GA4 has taken it to a new level and it's streamlined a lot of the things to allow you to create more of your own reporting, which is infuriating because I loved all of my pre-built reports. So now I just have to make my own pre-built reports. But it is actually, if you shed the past, any other millennial out there, shed the past and just really embrace what it's trying to tell you, it's really a valuable tool. Sorry to steal your thunder. Was there anything else you wanted to say on AI and GA4?
No, I think that is a perfect segue into, we have dumped a ton of information about what it can do, how it works, all of the different kind of definitions. But can you kind of take us a step back and tell us what next? How do we even add that into a marketing strategy? What does that even look like?
Yeah, and actually this dovetails well into a couple of the questions that we've just gotten through, is about like how AI can help with keywords on your website, and also balancing the benefits versus security considerations when it comes to AI. We know that every financial institution out there is very hesitant. And of course, like, we are the most heavily regulated industry. Of course, there's going to be hesitancy and concern. So we start small. That's kind of like the foundation. It's what we say every day to our marketers. We say, start small. And the biggest area that every marketer that we know struggles with, and that's from a standpoint of, I know I need content. I know I need content, but I can't be a writer and an editor and, and making the flyers and doing the events and doing the ads. I can't do all of the things. You don't have to. We love AI when it comes to creating content strategy. There are so many tools for it where you're like, I don't even know what to talk about, and I don't know how to talk about it. There's things that's already been out there, like Ask the Public. But if you look at any search engine result page using SGE as well, if you look at the near me searches or the related searches or all of the things, it'll tell you already. That's AI telling you this is what people are looking for. This is what they want the answers to. Don't overthink it. Ultimately, content is not about overthinking it. It's about stating and answering what seems to and feels to be the obvious. It is very much not the obvious. So use AI to create a content strategy and start to build that roadmap for yourself. Don't have to think about it. It has to be in the financial services space and has to be 5th to 7th grade reading level, should answer basic questions. That's your year. Do one a month, you're golden. And Abby, I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder here, but there are content writers, AI content writing tools that can build that outline for you. And it can you can identify some of the keywords. It'll help identify some keywords for you as well, depending upon the tool you use. But it'll be structured for SEO. It'll be structured to make sure that you're being found and that it's relevant and that it's unique to you. But again, it's just that draft. Also, in all of this, garbage in, garbage out. You should be claiming and managing your locations pages within, not just on your website, but also within Google My Business and any other local listing service. And that can be hard too. You need short and long descriptions. You need to have all of your services there. Use AI. Say, here's my website. Give me a short description. Here's a long, if you don't have those tools handy, have it help you. And then use that to populate everything. And then again, you're helping the internet be a more accurate place by making sure that there's not garbage in, but you're actually putting in quality, accurate information into the system, which will then feed any future SGE results for your consumers.
That is a beautiful segue. And something else I want to talk about really quick in regards to compliance and security considerations. Like Mel said, it is solely going to be a tool. It is a tool for you to use to help you create content or a content strategy, but it's an outline. It's not you're using what they're giving you in these prompt responses and boom, you just paste that right on your site. Absolutely not. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But in regards to compliance, you are still the expert. You are still the expert in your field. You are still the credible writer who is helping publish certain content. So it's not, again, you're not taking the content straight from AI and publishing that to your site and hoping that it's not taking information from anywhere that you're not aware of or that the information is factual. This is just helping you build an outline. You still have to go through and be the one to review and add in any critical information as it impacts your financial institution. So it would just be as if you wrote the blog yourself. You just had someone help you with that first step or something help you with that first step. But you are still the expert. You still have to be the one going through and analyzing and checking. And we like to call it the heartbeat editor, which again, we'll get into in a second, but you are still that expert. So you have to convey that to your compliance team. It's, again, not just plug and play. It is taking some of this information to help you have a starting point to build content that, again, is helpful for your consumer. It's not helpful to help you rank. It's helpful for your user who's coming to your site to answer the questions that they're searching. But I just wanted to make sure that that was very clear, that you are still the expert. You're still the one publishing this work. It's still coming from you. It still needs to have your tone and your proper brand presence within however you like to structure your content or your blogs. But really, it's not a set it and forget it. It's not a push it out and everything's great. You have to be the one going through and being that expert to review it. Honestly, a perfect segue into content.
Yes.
So like Mel said, you need to have a content strategy. So use these AI type tools to help you understand, what are people searching? What are the search trends? What is that fluctuation throughout the year in regards to certain products and services? And within that, like I said, you can get that strategy. You can get that breakdown of these are the things I want to talk about. These are some of the questions that people are asking that I want to answer as the expert. And again, you can use this as your outline. Get this as the breakdown of these are the certain topics I want to talk about. These are kind of the ways that I need to approach talking about these certain topics that are heavier. But again, you are the heartbeat editor. You have to be the one going in and reviewing and changing what they're saying to best suit your users and their needs. If you've used AI, you know what these results look like. It is subpar at best. Again, garbage in, garbage out. The what is going to give you based off of internet sources, ChatGPT specifically, it is so repetitive. It's going to say the same thing like 6 times in one paragraph. It has the understanding of what the topic is supposed to be, but it's not writing in a comprehensive manner. So that's when you would come in as that heartbeat editor and fix that section. You know what it needs to say, and you know what you need to get across. ChatGPT does not always know. It's a computer. So you have to be the one to go in there and edit and change and adjust and just use these tools as your starting point. Again, you are the expert. But one of the most important things that you need to be aware of, and they have a fun little term for it, called prompt engineering. So in a generative AI type of space, a generative transformer, a prediction text transformer, it is only able to give you an answer based off of the value of what you gave it. So when you're going into the search bar and you're typing in whatever it may be on how to write a meta description or how to do whatever you need to do, what are the most talked about financial topics in October, whatever it is that you're asking it, the way that you structure your sentence is going to dictate the way that ChatGPT gives you a response. Again, it's predicting what it thinks your answer should be based off of the text that you're giving it. So if you have a bias in the way that you're talking about certain things when you're asking it in these prompts to write a paragraph about how difficult HELOCs are to understand, you're going to get a response that has that negative bias associated. So you have to be aware of what you're putting in. Again, I know we've said it like 100 times, but garbage in, garbage out, but this time it's on us. What you input is going to heavily impact what you get back. There are tons of resources though. You are not alone in this. It takes time, but there are tons of different resources to help you best produce a prompt to get the most valuable answer out of it. But definitely be aware that that is going to take some time. It's going to take some trial and error to understand the way that we speak and the nuances and the way that we speak is not fully the way that, and I know that there are natural language processors and they're trying to understand the way that human language works. I mean, that's Google's new Bard. It's trying to understand the nuances in language, but that's going to take time. So if you train yourself to be ready for these changes, you're golden. Is there anything else you wanted to add in regards to the heartbeat editor and prompt engineering before I get into a little SEO stuff?
No, fire away.
All right. Just kind of a last thing that I want to talk about. Well, not the last, but one of the things that I want to talk about in regards to SEO strategy. There are so many subfacets to SEO, and this space is changing because the search space is changing. SEO is going to change because the way that we have to optimize the site is going to change. But again, that user experience is still number one. That is your number one priority, no matter what you're doing. It's your user. So use use ChatGPT, use these different AI programs to help with your SEO technical adjustments. Those aren't changing. The user's experience should not be changing just because the search space is. So make sure that your back end is set up properly, that you have alt tags, that you have meta tags, that everything from a technical standpoint is up to par. That way the bots that scan your site can produce you on that search engine result page to the best of their ability. I think that's often forgotten. People only want to focus on content and pushing and pushing and pushing. But if your back end is not up to par, bummer. That's going to hurt you. A little fresh, but it is going to hurt you in the long run. So you do have to be aware. Use these tools. This is your perfect opportunity to get a full breakdown of What is your content spread? What does that look like? Is there a shift in the way that your site loads? Well, what can be optimized? Oh, this string of code is not in the most optimized form. Perfect. Pop that in ChatGPT and say, optimize this for me.
Yeah.
Easy enough. It really is just understanding the full capability that these tools have and using it to your best advantage.
Yeah, beautifully said. And so we are going to get into our just like last little final thoughts. We've answered a bunch of awesome questions in Q&A, so please continue to put those in there. And we're happy to answer them as we go or after we're done. We just have kind of a few last final wrap up thoughts. And really, remember, AI is a tool. All of technology is a tool for you to leverage for your own benefit. So by not giving it a chance and starting small, you're only hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing that you can do is just stay up to date on all the changes that are happening in AI and in the search space. There are a ton of great resources. Of course, the financial brand, this is where we are. So absolutely stay up to date, read what's coming out in the financial brand. There's a ton of great articles. If you want to get super deep just into the search space, we recommend Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land. Those are two incredible ones. If you want to go super deep into technical marketing, I'm always going to shout out Simo Ahava because he's absolutely incredible in what's happening. But ultimately, understand AI is not perfect. And you have to understand and adapt that it's going to be here. It's not going anywhere. And so the better you are at just starting to allow it to slowly infiltrate and start to use it as part of your toolkit, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
And the last thing that we want to say, and again, we hear this a lot, is robots are taking over. We're not going to need search engine optimizers. We don't need marketing. We don't need search engine result pages. That's not true. That's not the truth at all. It truly is, and it's something that you kind of have to take that step back and realize AI is not going to replace you, but someone using AI will. Someone who is utilizing these tools and using them to the best of their abilities to, again, help their end user find what they need in the most efficient, effective manner, that will. So again, like Mel said, stay up to date, continue adapting, continue trying things out and testing new things. They said, I think it was in the early 2000s when websites started to come out and there were new CMS programs that people could do all on their own. We don't need web programmers anymore. That's not true. Web programmers, the need for them has gone through the roof. It's the same case for this. It's just utilizing the tools that you have and remembering you are still the expert here. You are still the one that is going to be communicating with your end user and your end customer. You know what they need the most. I think that truly, that kind of covers all. Again, we know that this was a very heavy topic. But
we do have a couple last questions that have come in through. So the first one is from Mr. David Freeman. How would you answer the question regarding ChatGPT, difference between the free version or the ChatGPT Plus version, which I assume requires payment?
It does. That is roughly, I think it's like $20 a month or something on that line. The difference between the two is the advancedness in the technology, in the sense that in the paid version, I think it's considered ChatGPT 4. In that paid version, it can scan websites, it can scan sites, it can scan sources. So there are some capability limitations between the paid and non-paid versions. Half our team uses the paid one, half our team does not use the paid one, and you still get just as valuable answers from it. It's just not able to go as far down the funnel as the paid version can.
Yeah. And then our second question is from Ryan P. I'm sorry, Ryan, I'm not going to hazard a guess at how to pronounce your last name. I don't want to mess it up. But what is your response to clients when they ask if you use generative AI? So first off, we don't really use generative AI in the sense of anything in the search engine space, but sometimes we do use it for drafts. And so that's what we will say is that, sometimes we start it for the outline of a blog and they still have it goes through like 4 heartbeat editors before anything makes it to client. And then once a client sees it, they still have to approve and go from there. So we are upfront. Should any clients ask about it, we'll say, yep, AI is used to start any draft. And that's our response, really, is making sure that, we still double check. It still goes through typically at least 2 people on the SEO team, or if nothing else, 1 person on the SEO team. And then it goes through minimum of 2 people within our, I'm curious. Sorry, I put in something wrong over here. Okay, but it goes through 2 people on the account services team, and then it also goes through copywriters. So, and I apologize to an anonymous attendee who I was trying to post things in chat and I sent it not to the right chat. So I'm going to figure out how to do that, but the sources again, and I'm going to respond here as well, are the financial brand. We also have Search Engine Journal.
While Mel is answering that question, I saw another one come in regarding, is there any best practices regarding content that is from AI generated sources? Is there any best practices in regards to disclosing that information? That's going to depend on you and your compliance team. It's just like we were using sources from the internet prior to, it's just all in one big space now. So you would have to follow your common kind of best practices that your compliance team is requiring you to do in regards to citing sources or citing information. It's going to follow that same process. But again, use these programs as an outline. You're not having them write each and every paragraph. You're not having them write every single section, but you can use the programs to say, what are the top 5 FAQs regarding this topic?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then build your answers off of that. So you're not taking that and then immediately saying, okay, now answer it, and then popping that in. No, you're taking that as the general outline of, this is kind of a question that we see on the internet. Maybe talk to your brand.
Take on it.
Are they getting that question? Great. What is their response? So there's ways that you can integrate it that's not just a copy and paste. We do not recommend a copy and paste. That's not going to go well. So that would be kind of our best suggestion. Is the best practice is follow your compliance team, but remember, you're the expert, and these answers and blogs and content still have to come from you. They still have to have your voice. And GPT, is cool as it is, it has setbacks. It's not that great at doing certain features. So you still have to be the one in there fixing the content, rewriting the content, rephrasing the content, whatever it is that's critical. Again, but your compliance team will kind of have the biggest say on that.
Ultimately, don't use ChatGPT as a source.
Yeah, don't.
Use it as a start to find sources. So you should never be citing ChatGPT as a source within any of your written works. You should have other ones, and then of course just have that outline. And another question from Anna Beam: do you have a list of the programs you recommend? And we do. So some of the ones that we like, that we've kind of vetted internally, this is by no means exhaustive, but we really kind of stick in the mindset of our clients who do not have big budgets, who do not have a ton of time. Obviously ChatGPT, which we've talked about a ton. Obviously Google Analytics Insights. There's also AnyWord, and there's Jasper.ai. AnyWord and Jasper.ai are content writers. Those are like those initial start options. And yes, to the anonymous attendee, that really dovetails nicely. If a prompt includes a brand voice, does that tend to produce more unique content? And yes, like AnyWord, for example, it depends, of course. You can have a lot of fun with it. I went a little off the rails because I wanted to see how far I could push it. So you can say, I want to talk about home equity, and I want to write really sassy content, and I wanted to include these keywords. Yes, I'll put those names in chat. And it'll spit out a whole outline for you. And it'll be sassy. It'll be sarcastic. You can have it as sarcastic. You can have it as very buttoned up. You can give it other sources to kind of pull from. Again, you have to make it sound like you, though, because it's not you. And you have to verify the content. And a lot of times with these writers, because they're not perfect, there's a lot of duplicity that happens, and you have to go through and really make it sound like a human wrote it, because ultimately a human ends up doing that.
And reminder in the sense when you say produce more unique content, yes, it will be unique in regards to the tone that you're asking it to speak in. But again, these are all predictive text-based programs. So it is predicting what it thinks you want the answer to be. meaning it has to come from somewhere. So if you have a very specific brand voice that you always have to use, definitely input it in and try to have it at least build out that outline in that sense. But again, you still have to be the one to really place that voice properly for the way that your brand needs it to be placed.
All right, we are working on hoping our lovely friends at the Financial Brand can push that chat out to the entire group of the programs, ChatGPT, Google Analytics Insights, AnyWord, and Jasper.ai. This final one, I don't know that I have an answer to, but Abby, do you have any recommendations on an AI program that could help with some kind of call center and possibly a chat feature on a web page? Outside of the ones that are fairly well known within the industry, such as like Glia, which isn't an AI one, because ultimately there's trees where you can create like a question and here's all the answers that could potentially happen. I don't necessarily have one right off the bat. If you want to go the full digital route, what is the name of Agent IQ? Is something that is a really cool app, but it allows for a more digitalized, personalized experience. Again, not quite AI though. So sadly,
a lot of that is kind of, it's veering on the topic of AI to be able to help the users, but for the most part, you probably want to have someone on your end within your call center answering certain questions that might be coming through, and to field the questions. But there really could be programs. Highly recommend you research that. Honestly, you probably can ask ChatGPT if they have something that does that, and it will be able to answer. But definitely a great question.
I think we've answered all the questions now. Please feel free. You can visit us at pannosmarketing.com, connect with us on LinkedIn. We have lovely forms. We do not have AI on our website, so sorry. But we do have just a standard form fill if you want to chat with us. Otherwise, stay tuned to the next Financial Brand webinar. Sign up for all of the great things that are happening with this community. And thank you so much for joining us for this really, really heavy but fun topic. All right. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. There it is.
Thanks, everyone.